It takes a long time to get good at wrestling. So when I started doing wrestling back in freshman year of high school, it was probably by far the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. Literally, the first day that practice started, and pretty much we were learning about how to do shots, and then we did a whole bunch of conditioning. I was dying. I was dying real bad, man. And it was not the best experience. And I remember the first week of practice, my legs were so sore to where I was limping. I was limping in the hallways, and it was really noticeable. I had multiple people tell me like, yo, are you okay? Like, what's wrong with your legs? Because this was something I've never done in my life before. I've never done something as intense as wrestling. And it took me a really long time to get even semi-decent at wrestling, because senior year of high school, I don't think I was even the best wrestler. You know, I ended off, I think, with a record of like 18-9, but you know, I didn't end up placing in states or anything like that. I didn't really have any accomplishments. And it took just like 2 years, literally 2 years, to just build some decent fundamentals. That's how tough wrestling is. I feel like with kickboxing, you can become a really good kickboxer in 2 years. If you put your heart and soul into it, you can. But with wrestling, it's just so much more different because wrestling is so demanding. Not only do you have to have good technique, but you have to have conditioning, strength and conditioning, like no other human. You gotta be strong as hell, and you gotta be in as good shape as possible. And the best type of wrestlers are wrestlers that have been wrestling since they were young. So this was something that I used to complain about in high school because, you know, like I started freshman year of high school. I started when I was 14, but there were motherfuckers that started when they were like 4 or 5. So they've been wrestling since they were like very, very little. So the fundamentals and everything, all the strength and conditioning that they've built over like the hundreds and hundreds of wrestling matches that they've had applied in high school and gave me a huge disadvantage. Because the thing is with wrestling, so I've gone up against kickboxers and I've gone up against wrestlers. And I would say wrestlers are just a different breed. You know, you ever been snapped down like fucking like half a millisecond? Like I've been snapped down and then just shot immediately, okay? And then like all of a sudden I'm on my fucking back. Like that's happened to me multiple times in high school. And it was like kind of like the Flash. Like it was just like it just immediately. And we've been seeing in the UFC recently how dominant wrestlers are. Wrestlers are OP because you can be a really good striker in the UFC, but if you don't have any sort of wrestling or any sort of grappling and your takedown defense is shit, it's over. Like it's over. Like you can go up against a couple good grapplers, and if you have a good name, like they'll put you, the UFC will put you against strikers. But the moment you go up against a grappler, right, you're gonna get fucked up. So for example, like Alex Pereira is a really good kickboxer, and he does have I believe a brown belt or a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but grappling isn't his thing, right? And you have this dude Ankalaev who's been wrestling since God knows how long. Also, he's from Dagestan, so he has that Dagestani advantage. And bro, he would just fuck him up. He would fuck him up so easily, I feel like, because, you know, we've seen Izzy versus Alex Pereira 1, you know, and Izzy was like a purple belt, or is a purple belt, and he out-grappled Alex Pereira, and Alex Pereira ended up gassing out. So to have a whole wrestler just go ahead and grapple a, you know, kickboxer, and even if Alex Pereira was trying to use his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and he had takedown defense, one of my partners in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu said it best, that 6 out of 10 times a wrestler is going to beat someone that does Jiu-Jitsu. It's just how it is, because the takedowns in wrestling and just the hand playing and everything, it's so much more OP than Jiu-Jitsu. Whereas Jiu-Jitsu, you know, if it goes on the ground, it's kind of a different story. But if a wrestler just learns like pretty good Jiu-Jitsu, I mean, they'll fuck up the Jiu-Jitsu person. So kind of the point I'm trying to make is, if you want to get into MMA and maybe your goal is to become a UFC fighter, I would really recommend, man, that you practice wrestling and you try to go to a gym specifically that does wrestling. Because even if your wrestling is subpar, even if your wrestling's not that great, if you go up against an MMA person and all he really knows is striking, bro, you can literally take him down, and then if you know a couple good submissions, it's over. That's how OP I think wrestling is, man. Like, really trying to join a gym that does wrestling. Like, my gym now, we have this dude that comes in like 2 times a week. He's like, I think he did like Greco and everything like that. He's a pretty good wrestler. So we have him come in like 2 days a week to just help us with wrestling, because even in like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, if you have good wrestling, you can fuck up all those fucking white belts, because all they know is just submissions. They don't really know takedowns and all that. So I would highly recommend, man, that you find a gym, you know, that focuses a lot on wrestling, because trust me, it will make your MMA game a whole lot different, and you could become unstoppable with even just subpar wrestling. If you enjoy content like this, make sure to subscribe, and remember, my boys, stay active, stay busy, and most of all, stay hungry.